My name's Laine Loxlea-Danann. I have been a professional singer-songwriter, performer and composer for the last 31 years. Whenever I perform a new song, or whenever I write a new song, for the last 6 years I've had the absolute pleasure of having this amazing musician to take the songs to. We play them through, we talk about them, we talk about my chord choices, we talk about all sorts of stuff, and then we usually build arrangements, and then we usually end up performing them somehow. So it's been a part of my essential practice. I've tried to understand all my... Meeting the vocal needs of a singer-songwriter in the vocal studio is a vast topic that has only just started to be researched. My research suggests strongly that each lesson needs to be treated individualistically. So each singer-songwriter is different, what they need from that moment in the studio is different, and there is no one size fits all. As a teacher, we can't simply rely on a format or a formulaic sort of approach. We want to try and use a model as much as we can and keep bringing the needs of the singer-songwriter, underpinning that with as much healthy technique as we possibly can, without allowing the singer-songwriter to feel that they are having their sense of personal authenticity taken from them. It would be unadvisable for a teacher to believe or assume that what is true of one singer-songwriter is true of another. My research tends to suggest there is so many variants between each singer-songwriter that we must address them as an individual.
Hi, my name's Nathan Wheeler. I'm a singer-songwriter, musical theatre performer and an actor.
I'd love to hear just one of your songs, what you're working on at the moment. Just play the way you normally play, sing the way you normally sing. Yeah, so what's the song you're going to perform?
It's called Heart and Soul. My heart and soul, it sings every time you're in the room.
What are the teaching needs for a singer-songwriter in the singing vocal studio? I wanted to know how it compared with the teaching needs of a straight singer, a normal singing lesson. And I wondered if it was possible for our pedagogical approaches to be tailored to specifically meet the needs of the singer-songwriter. How does this feel different to our lessons when we're doing music theatre?
I feel like it's different because I'm more connected to what I'm singing about because I've written it myself. Yeah.
I'm a singer-songwriter, and there's a real process to that. And the journal helped me work out what my process was. And I think what's really beautiful about making a creative journal in the style that I have is that it becomes an artifact, a historical artifact. It captures a huge period of time in my life because I've reflected from music I wrote back when I was 16 to now, but it's all collected in one place. And because I used creative journaling where there are no rules and you have to challenge yourself to be as free as you can in the way you write and what you put in it, it's now this powerful record of my creative authenticity. It also allowed me to investigate how my compositional moment affects where my vocal production ends up, or what happens to my vocal production. And this is a thought that I had never thought about before. I didn't know that the act of composition could actually affect the end result of your vocal. And it was my creative journal that helped me to find that. It also made me realize that as a composer, I didn't identify with the lyricist as much, or the singer as much. In the moment of composition, I am a composer. And through my study, what I realized is that other participants are at the other end of that spectrum, where their voice is the composer. Their voice is the paintbrush, is the compositional paintbrush. It's very different to me. And so investigating this from that perspective and using my journal to help me unlocked a lot of information that I didn't even know existed. Until we suffocate, 'cause I can't breathe in love. when I said to Irene, I'm going to sing one of my songs for you, I don't really know how I want to sing it. And she said, but didn't you write it? And I said, I did, but yeah, I still don't know how to sing my own song. It was so interesting during these sessions because we explored songs that I knew what I wanted to do on them and songs that I had no idea. And I realized also that depending on the song's content, what it was about, how it was written, when it was written, my vocalizing changed enormously. So through these sessions, what we realized was the lesson was not like a lesson of a straight singer. You're singing a universal style, universal music. They took on a different form. Are you sure? What my research has uncovered is that there seems to be this scale that singer-songwriters sit on, and at one end is a singer-songwriter like me who powerfully identifies with being a composer, and at the other end is a singer-songwriter who powerfully identifies with being the singing voice. So for them, it's like their voice is the compositional paintbrush. But for me, I feel like I'm a composer, and then after the piece is written, I then have to be my own interpreter. So I have to be a vocal interpreter of my own music. At the moment of composition, a singer-songwriter can experience a very powerful sense of personal authenticity. And this experience of personal authenticity can actually determine the journey of the vocal production thereafter. The singer-songwriter can also, for time to come, work in performance to recreate this sense of personal authenticity that they experienced during composition. This desire to work and find that personal authenticity again can impact their vocal production.
I originally had it in a higher key, so I was, it was a lot higher than what I was normally singing. Yeah. And then I took it down a key and it felt more comfortable. Yeah. But yeah, it was quite similar to how I wrote it. It's pretty similar to what it is now.
Okay, that's good. As singing teachers, it is important for us to consider the compositional moment for a singer-songwriter. Because, you know, as a singer-songwriter, most of the time you're just crumpled up on a couch or your bed, over your guitar, strumming, you know, softly singing to yourself. That moment of composition, it's not necessarily underpinned with good vocal practice. So we have a situation where their powerful moment of authenticity that they want to hold on to could be married with a moment that their vocal production has absolutely no sound technique to it at all, no sustainable technique.
This song is really interesting because I've never actually been able to sing it without crying. And the only time I've sung it once in my life without crying. And this just, I think, orchestrates, or what does it do? Demonstrates that sense of personal authenticity that we experience as a singer-songwriter. I just shake my fist with the... And I'm not scared.
So each lesson with a singer-songwriter is going to be different. Each one is going to be unique, and they'll have each their own profile. When I have a singer-songwriter in the studio, the first thing I want to do is spend time exploring them singing, their music. I ask them questions about their background. I ask them questions about how they've written the songs, how long they've been singing for, how long they've been writing for, their aspirations, whether they identify with a vocal persona or a signature sound. I try to take time to really explore exactly who they are. I also want to explore how much sense of personal authenticity do they feel when they sing, and I want to understand whether they feel their vocal is set at the moment of composition, as they rehearse, at the moment of performance, or ad hoc. That's a very important thing for me. So if we look at Nathan's lessons, what's interesting is that he comes under that category of a singer-songwriter who actually starts to write their vocal at the moment of composition.
With every song I write, I feel like it has its own vocal character that suits it and how I wrote it to be like that. But I feel like from the start, I feel like I kind of set what I want it to sound like.
He actually came into the lesson with quite strong ideas about what he wanted that vocal to be like. As we worked through his lesson, what we found was that he did identify with a very strong sense of personal connection, that sense of personal authenticity with the piece, much more strongly than he does with covers. The other thing that was interesting about his lesson is that he identified that the way he writes, his moment of composition, is married to a body alignment that is not really conducive for sustainable, healthy singing. You know, he does either sit on a couch or on his bed, sort of crumpled over his guitar, finding his way through a song.
I'm in love with the girl next door, and it's crazy, 'cause I finally get to say it and screaming at the top of my lungs.
It's an essential part of his practice to actually sing and play the guitar. But you could see that we discussed his body when he was playing the guitar. And of course, because I get to have Nathan as a student for music theatre, his body work is very different. When he's singing music theatre, he has a better kinesthetic connection with his body. That hasn't actually translated directly across to his singer-songwritership while playing the guitar. So it's important for us to actually take those pieces apart and for him to realise he's playing two instruments at the one time, and he needs to address the technique of both of those instruments to play them well. What's interesting is you said that the vocal is sort of close to what you'd like it to be. How open do you think you are to finding ways of singing that, retaining what you've got, but ways that you can sing that are going to feel maybe more comfortable, easier, give you more longevity?
I would love to, I would like to have suggestions to how to do that, because to make it better and better for me as well singing it. That'd be great.
Good. What was comfortable and nice about Nathan's lesson is that he was actually open to the idea of suggestions about his singing. He was open to looking at how technique might be able to assist him without losing the colour or the feel or the ambience of the vocal performance that he's decided on. He was willing to actually look at his technique. That's not always going to be the case with every singer-songwriter. They can be very attached to what they're doing and may not see the benefits of technique. Also with Nathan, I found the fact that he had lessons in another discipline, in musical theatre, really gave him some foundations to hold on to or grab onto, so that he can bring that across into his singer-songwritership.
I've been receiving vocal lessons in musical theatre recently, but because of my EP, I really wanted to explore what lessons could do for me within my singer-songwriter career and where that could take me and my voice.
A lesson with a singer-songwriter can feel a little less predetermined and perhaps open to negotiation because the music is original and it may not fit in a already globalised style. These lessons are not necessarily music style or vocal style based, primarily because a singer-songwriter can identify with a vocal persona or some sense of authenticity that sits outside of a globalised, recognised style. Some singer-songwriters do actually write for their vocal capabilities, but a lot of singer-songwriters don't. And it's not necessarily true that if they write for their capabilities that they will do that for every song. It can vary. So some songs can sit well within their voice and then other songs may not. I could write, it's you that paints the scenes, rivers, flowers, birds and trees and every glory we live. Because a singer-songwriter will often prioritise their sense of personal authenticity or vocal persona over sustainable technique. There is a challenge for us as teachers with trying to work out how we can advocate sustainable technique to a singer-songwriter. It's important for us to take that gently and slowly and listen to what they're trying to achieve, and then help them to understand that by adjusting small things that won't actually take that sense of personal authenticity away from them, by adjusting those small things, we can increase vocal sustainability and health.
All words fail me. Words fail me. But where words fail, my love for you never.
A challenge for both teacher and singer-songwriter is that we're working with original songs. There's no reference material out in the world for that original song, where a singer can stand back from a cover and see it as a separate entity. The singer-songwriter could see that piece as a part of themselves. They may not see it as a separate entity, and a teacher needs to be aware that they may not be able to separate themselves from the song to look at it objectively. So it's very important for the teacher to be open to the ideas of the singer-songwriter and open to new approaches in singing. For a teacher, it's important to remember we cannot make the assumption that when the singer-songwriter enters the studio that they know what they want from the song and from the vocal. So it's important for us to be ready to either accept that they know what they want and work with them on that specific thing, or help them to define what they want if they don't know what they want, and find resources to help them create that craft and create that vocal performance.
We felt like we needed an extra guy.
Yeah, you're letting it breathe.
Yeah.
So coming to a lesson gives them an environment to validate their craft and to help them to understand that their songs are important and special, and that the craft is quite a fragile craft where a comment that is negative could stop that singer-songwriter from ever writing again. So the objective for a singing teacher in this context could be to form quite a personal relationship with the singer-songwriter and to take the time to truly understand what their music is, what they're trying to create, and what their vocalization is and how they want that to be. And that may take time, and it may be challenging for the teacher to perhaps let go of some of their choices or their preferences.
That was actually better. Did you notice the difference in the tone?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't have that, like, it just sounded more full to me, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
In lessons with a singer-songwriter, I still will underpin with technique, warm up, warm down, function exercises, conditioning exercises. I still take that same approach, that underpinning the entire lesson very subtly with healthy choices. It just may take a little more time than your average style singer. And I think as a teacher, allowing that time for you to truly understand what they want, and us not putting them in a box, allowing them to have that sense of vocal authenticity, personal authenticity, is really important. That gives them space, and it builds a place of trust. The lessons become a place of trust, which is really, really important.
I'll be your reckless coquette as you cha-cha with me. When you cha-cha with me, now cha-cha with me. Done.
Nice.
You're brilliant.
Oh, you make it easy. Very easy.